The home of all things diaspora. Coming to Easy FM 107.5, Ahanka FM 99.5, and on television, Ocean One TV, ATV, and online worldwide. Join our hosts, Aleda Castillo and DJ Saki, every Wednesday, live at 10 p.m. GM time. Meet the who's who in Ghana and who is coming to Ghana of Culturally Lit Africa. Find us online, #Culturally Lit.
One of Dubai's vegan food business top boss is a woman from Ghana. Meet Nana-Serwa Mancell next on Culturally Lit this Wednesday at 10 p.m. GMT and 6 p.m. New York City, live on Ocean One TV and Ahamka FM, Easy FM, and ATV. Welcome, everybody, and it is another Wednesday and a rainy day in Ghana. This is Aleda Castillo, your host of Culturally Lit, and we're coming to you live from New York and from Dubai, and we're live in Ghana. So we're like in 3 different continents right now, and to pull this off is not easy. So we are so grateful for the opportunity. We are being live on television, on radio, Ahamka FM 99.5, Easy FM 103.7.5, and we are also on Ocean One TV, and of course on Facebook at Culturally Lit. And our special guest, how are you? Nana-Serwa Mancell. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name even right.
Oh,
right?
You did it really well. Nana-Serwa,
Yes.
You did it really well.
Yes. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm so excited to have you because you are one of those phenomenal women, right? And I don't ask a lot of questions before the show, but I did read your bio, and I've had many referrals, and you've been well recommended, not only as a human being, but as a businesswoman in the food industry. So we want to talk about you. We want to talk about what you're doing in Dubai, and also culturally, where you're from and how you're bringing that culture into Dubai. But so let's start with why Nana? Who is Nana?
Nana.
Nana.
Nana, yes.
Nana.
So I'm very privileged to be able to have lived across 3 continents, because I was born to my mother, who I owe so much to, as we all do, but especially mine.
Yes.
And my mother is a fierce career woman and a lawyer, but was very, very insistent on me understanding my Ghanaian roots and my Ghanaian language. So I think I was one of the few middle-class kids that didn't speak English when I went to school.
Wow.
Because she kind of said, English you will learn, but her languages she might not. And I'm in the privileged position of speaking 3 Ghanaian languages really quite well. And she was right, of course. English I would learn. And she also taught me to be very, very proud of my heritage. And I had no idea how far this kind of pride she gave me would take me, and it brings me here. So who I am is, I owe very much to that question to my mum. Who I am now is all the things that are going on in the world that I'm interested in, that get me here now. Yeah.
So you decided to, I know you came from England to Dubai. You were born in Ghana, raised in England, and now in Dubai. What are the notable differences, aside from the economics, that you can mention, the experience that you have in Ghana versus England, and then Dubai. What are the
Oh my
notable
God,
differences?
you need a whole other show
Just for that, right?
just for that. And it's also about, rites of passage and growing. So if I start backwards, coming to Dubai for me was when I realized there was more to life than being kind of a partying 20-something-year-old person, and that I needed to think about whether I wanted to make my own career separately from just the corporate gravy train and have kids and that sort of thing. And Dubai is a great place for that. As an entrepreneur, you're very encouraged. And how can I say, life is a little bit easier here for me than it was in England. So I've been able to explore things I'm interested in. And then as a child, moving from Ghana to England, or as a university student, is when I began to understand that I was very interested in my Ghanaian culture and Ghanaian heritage. And this is where, say, cooking comes in.
So I understand one of your signature dishes, right? I mean, we're going to talk about that later because, I been spending a lot of time learning about the Ghanaian culture, and the fufu. Okay, I could do it sometimes, The jollof or jollof rice.
Mhm.
Not everyone can get that right, and so I have my own way of
Mhm.
making the rice. But I want to talk about that. How do you connect and how do you get to food? Because the food business is very, it's not easy, right? You really have to not only love food and cooking and the stories behind food, but you also have to love the business of the food business, which is not very easy, and particularly for women. So, how do you determine on what business to do in Dubai? And as a woman entrepreneur, do you find that it's easier for you because you are a woman, or it's just easier to do business in Dubai?
I don't think it's necessarily easier to do business in Dubai, but a combination of the structures in Dubai and my own upbringing mean I have to say I don't spend a lot of time thinking about whether I'm a woman or not. People have a lot of misconceptions about Dubai, and I'm sure there's certain parts of Dubai where your femininity is an issue. But for
Yes.
me, in the kind of expat business world I live and operate in, whether I'm a woman or not has never actually crossed my mind when I walk into a room to give a pitch or whatever. Um,
Really? And how do you know? Okay, so let me ask this because it doesn't cross your mind. Uh,
mm.
but do you know if it crosses theirs, whoever you're pitching to? Because
Well,
for
I will assume that if I'm not worried about my mind, that means I'm not worried about their mind in terms of being a woman. Because I'm a strategic person. So,
yes,
but that's we live in a tiny. Dubai is a very it's very difficult to explain to anybody who hasn't actually lived and worked here. You can visit, but it's not the same thing. So my career here began with a big international advertising agency. And a lot of my bosses and people I met in power were women. So I didn't stop to think that, I'm in the Middle East and it's meant to have these holdups. I'm not saying they're not there, but I'm just saying in my kind of expatriate business bubble, being a woman isn't what's held me back at all.
um, that's very interesting. But also the fact that many of the people that you worked with in the advertising agency were women, I'm
Mm.
sure that that also helps you not to think about whether you're a
And
woman
and
or
also,
not.
like I say, in my own upbringing, I come from. I don't know how much you know about Southern Ghanaian societies. I'm an Akan, and Akans are we're matrilineal. I don't know how
Mm-hmm.
much you know about that.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm-hmm.
not matriarchs, but matrilineal.
Matrilineal.
But
So,
that has always afforded me a certain level of confidence. And so, for instance, I've grown up without a concept at all of, say, housewife. Every woman works. Whether
mm,
you have children, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, you work. So it's never been a thing where I hear people say, I have a choice. Do I stay at home or do I work? For me, I work. Full stop.
right.
No matter how many children I'm going to have or what the work is going to be, there's no choice. You're a woman, you work, and you bring your dollar home. Is how a lot of us Akan women are brought up.
And culturally, that's not something that people think about when they think about Ghana and that women would be raised like that, to be, okay, working women. Although I will say, I have noticed certain areas in Ghana where I see women working and men are not working.
Mm. Yes, I mean that's a whole other conversation. So I'm talking about women working, women, and for matrilineal, the kind of, and I come from a very traditional background, so I was taught a lot of very traditional stuff. My fancy matrilineal traditions was that the woman kind of went out and maybe met a man and had her children, but her children were hers, not of the family. So her children were hers and her heritage to bring out, to bring up. And so there's not the kind of thing where you get together with the guy and then it's going to be great because you're both going to work together. I'm generalizing a little bit here, but
Yes,
Fanti
no, I
Matrilineal
understand.
was that the child. So you hear that they would say Nana-Serwa Mancell. So when you see a child, you might not even refer to the child's mother by the child's mother's name. You would say such and such's mother, and you'd never bother to ask who the father is. And we've grown up with it.
Fascinating.
And that has also many disadvantages. Many advantages in making us confident working women without any doubts of our duties and what we have to do. But disadvantages in that sometimes some sections of Ghanaian society, like my mum, the women carry too much of the can, so to speak.
As they say in Ghana.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that basically, I mean, that kind of upbringing and that cultural background helps you to be strong in these different countries and in the entrepreneurial side of things, correct?
Absolutely, yes. When you have it inside you that you have to do something, and if you do it well, you will succeed. It's a very privileged way to be brought up.
Is there any advice that you would give to women in Ghana now, that you say, you know, when I go back home to Dominican Republic and people talk to me and they say, you know, they want to like get out and come to the U.S. or they want to come to New York, or they want to, as if all the solutions and all the answers are outside, and yet we find ourselves returning and wanting to come back, and so it's hard to, you know, how do you inspire women to stay there and be entrepreneurs where they are and that they have opportunities there?
I come from a little bit of a bubble, so my kind of middle class Ghanaian bubble. A lot of my friends who I went to school with in Ghana, stronger, striving, more successful career women than me. So I wouldn't dream of giving them advice. For
Well, not
instance.
everyone has the privilege to have the
Yes, but I,
circle.
I can't. That's where I come from. I can't
Yes.
pretend. And then of course I meet other women. Um, and how can I say? It's more in terms of them advising me more than the other way around, and reminding me that, you know, as a woman, you have a place in the world to always take responsibility and duty for your family in the wider sense, and your culture and your history, yeah, and drive that forward. Yeah.
Wow. So now you are in Dubai, and what made you get into the food business?
It kind of came to me in many ways. From when I went to university, I actually left home in Ghana not really knowing how to cook. So when I went to university, I got curious about my own cuisine, and then had time and spent a lot of time cooking, and through that started exploring my culture. So that was always with me. And then also, I always enjoyed when people didn't understand or had negative connotations of Africa. I always enjoyed cooking them things, and they would go, "Oh wow, this is from your country," and I would say yes. And that thing kind of really ballooned when I started having more and more vegetarian and vegan friends, because I would cook for them. Initially, it took me a while to get here where I'm cooking my own traditional Ghanaian foods. Initially, I didn't accord them with as much love as I have now. So I would have vegetarian and vegan friends visiting, and then, you know, the first one or two dishes I would make them would be kind of pasta and tomato sauce, and I'd kind of think, well, I'm a proud chef. I want to do something better. And I found whenever I was cooking for vegans or vegetarians, if I went back to West African food, the whole thing was amazing, and actually then I would want the whole crowd I was cooking for to eat like the vegetarians and do the African thing. And that kind of grew and grew. And then I had a great job that I had to leave because of the pandemic. And the pandemic, I think for so many people, has actually given us so many opportunities. So I worked on what would have been a big event that wasn't going to happen, and I soon realized that I had to think of something else. And I thought, what do I want to do? I have a law degree, but a career in communications, and I really don't want to do either of those. And I cooked, just coincidentally, this 9-course dinner of just Ghanaian food for some vegan
Wow.
friends of mine, and enjoyed doing it so much. And I thought there might be something in this. And then the more I thought about it, especially, I've always known that Ghanaian food, West African food, has something to offer the world, and that there's something really weird that our food isn't better known. So all this kind of started coming back to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I initially found that the Ghanaian food or West African food was kind of an acquired taste, and then it depends on where you eat, of course,
Mm,
because and who's cooking, because then you say, oh wow, the rice is good, the fufu is good, the soups, there's so many different types of soups,
mm.
and so then that's kind of a challenge. So how do you maintain the those flavors and then no meat because
Yeah. So at the moment, I'm all about inclusivity. That's what I want to do. So I'm almost evangelical about the plant-based journey and what West African food has to offer to it. So, for instance, I don't have fufu on my menu
mm-hmm,
simply because it is an acquired taste, and it's not. I love it. It's probably my favorite thing to eat, but
mm-hmm,
I don't want to just send somebody fufu who's never had it before, doesn't understand how to eat it. That's quite a different thing from, say, red, which is plantain and beans.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Whether you've had it or not, you're going to love it. It's easy to eat. So at the moment, I'm focusing on those things that are easy to translate and that everybody will love,
That
whether they're
makes
vegans
sense.
or not. And our food offers us so much that I have enough in this space. So much as I love fufu, for what I'm doing right now, I don't for what I'm doing right now. Later it might change.
Yes,
Fufu isn't
yes.
on my menu simply because I want to be able to go to any family or whatever and say, why don't you eat more plants? Try the spinach dish. And then I
Yeah.
have I take away some of the more spiciness that we might have. And actually, when you cook it really well using fresh ingredients, I get my agushi from a particular place. I don't know if you know what I mean by agushi. My particular place in Accra. The spinach is beautiful, and everybody loves it.
Yes. No, I agree that that's kind of like you have to get certain things from a particular place. It's not everywhere
Mm,
that you find the dishes. But
mm.
you haven't been a vegan all your life.
No, I haven't. And even now, I struggle a little with something that's quite so, how can I say it? Saying that you're becoming vegan still has connotations of giving up.
Right.
Whereas I do
Yes.
believe, for me, I became a long time ago. I worked for the UK Green Party many years ago, but that's another story. And I
We're gonna have
became
to talk
quite
about
a,
that in another show.
yeah, I became quite I believe in being responsible human beings towards the earth. So
Mm,
my big thing is, if you look at any of the statistics, if many of us just dropped meat 2 or 3 times a week, the difference would be huge. And that's kind of where I come in. And I see as veganism, it's not big news to say it's exploding, of course. But whenever I see more fake chicken nuggets or fake burgers, which is another way it's developing, I'm like, oh, my heart breaks, because I'm like, come to West Africa, come and have some wache, come and have some rice and peas, come and have some kelewele. You don't even need to think about fake anything. This stuff is gorgeous.
there is that desire of mass production and feeding as many people as possible as
Hmm.
quickly as possible. So then you got
Which
all the
Ghanaian
fake
food
foods.
does perfectly. I have to
Yes.
say, yeah. I did a market just last weekend, and I got 3 times as many people as I expected. But to make okra stew or spinach stew or jollof in bulk is not a huge challenge as to make
Mm,
any, as other
hmm.
cuisines as I know in bulk. Ghanaian food does or West African food does very well like this. Yeah.
So, so being a vegan is more like, so you want you want people to think, hey, it's our responsibility to take care of our own environment, and eating vegan is not only healthy for us, but also for the environment. Um,
Absolutely. And
yeah,
yeah, and the more you think about it, the more we read. I mean, it's if you're a practical person, it's the way the world is going to go. And from what we know, I mean, unless you're buying some kind of very specialized farm grass raised kind of meat, the meat that we're all eat, that people are eating is actually very, very, we know this is not big news. We're just all in denial. Is actually not that great for us. Whereas if we just dropped it and explored other cuisines, you wouldn't even know it's missing. So like my jollof rice dish, it comes with so much thrown at you that I have this pot. I mean, I question anybody who's going to pick at it and say, where's the meat? Because I have yam balls, I have fried plantain, I have two different types of salads going on, and of course the jollof rice itself. So why would you miss the meat?
well, what about, so I know some vegans, and I know people like vegetarians, also, and the protein. How do you get enough protein
That's, I
and
think, a
limit
lot
the
of.
starch?
So I'm not so sure about how much protein is in a non-vegan diet in the first place. So again, if you eat wache, spinach and agusi, rice and beans, that's probably a lot better protein for you than some kind of
Meat.
manufactured meat from somewhere.
Yes, yes. And so your food business, Vegana, is that how you pronounce it?
Vegana, yes, yes.
Yes. I thought it was a brilliant name, by the way. I'm like, wow, why didn't anyone think of that sooner?
Now, a couple of other people have, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So
I
I
didn't
mean,
know
but
that. I thought, oh, look, I'm so clever. And of course, I am. You get to a couple of other people have, yeah.
well,
Yeah.
it's an amazing name. And so your business is centered around catering. Yes.
It's a bit of both. So I'm centered. I have three sort of things. So I do meal delivery, and then I do catering of events, and then I do my own events, which are kind of pop-up restaurants and various events that are going to be coming up. Yeah.
Which one is more successful in the beginning? Your own pop-up events or attending someone else's?
Um. So we're this is fairly new. So far, I think um, it's between my own pop-up events and doing something like a market stall. So that's a very new learning. So there was the very first ever vegan market in Dubai just this weekend. And the food regulations here are very, very strict. And being kind of very obvious African, I'm too aware that I don't want to make anybody sick. And if anybody does, they would remember where,
Where it came from.
I need to be more careful than careful.
Right, right,
And
right.
the laws in Dubai are very, very strict. So if you have rice after 2 hours, you have to throw it all away, kind of thing.
Mm.
You
So
can't
there's
keep so
not a
and
lot.
I'm strictly following these laws. So I had this market and I didn't think that it would do as well. And I just had to turn up with my food to sell. And like I was saying, I sold 3 times as much as I expected. And
Wow.
we were just busy all day just dishing food out to people who had never had it before. So this is a new learning for me. But before that, I've really enjoyed because I always wanted my brand to be not just about food, but I'm somebody who's very interested in art. I'm very interested in poetry and of course music. So I wanted to use Vegana to bring these things together as well. So
And you can
I'm
never have,
enjoying.
it's almost you can never have an event, right, without the food and music,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it
But
goes all
also
together.
there's also a story of Dubai. So I've been privileged that my interests have led me down various kind of rabbit holes. So for instance, I'm very interested in poetry and spoken word, and there's a very strong community. But my friends who are not interested in that might not know about it. So I've loved hosting an event and having one of these poets come along and whilst people are eating, give one of their kind of lyrical rap sort of thing, or
Oh, nice,
yeah, I
nice,
have some
nice.
people who can sing, or people who do kind of dances and that sort of thing, so that yes, the food is amazing, but it's you leave with your kind of soul satisfied, which I think
Yes.
you get from good quality culture where you observe and get involved gives you that feeling that you also get from food. Kind of my soul is satisfied.
So you have people. So as you're doing these events and you're cooking, or you're offering different dishes to people, and they're coming and attending your event, do you have people that have known you from your life as a lawyer or as a PR person or the
Absolutely, yes,
corporate
yes,
world
yes,
that come in and say, "What
yes,
are
yes,
you
yes,
doing? You're
yes,
cooking."
yes. Yeah, yeah. I mean, what I've had is so much love and encouragement, and that's been
Oh,
been
that's beautiful.
a lovely surprise. And nearly everybody kind of says, "Oh, go for it! I've heard you doing this." Even people that don't live here, they kind of say, "Go for it." And even my poor amazing mom, who spent so much on all my degrees, even she's kind of given me encouragement and behind it. And
Well,
I
that's a
wouldn't.
big deal.
That's a very big deal. Yes, yes. So that's
So
good.
there's something you told me about your mom that was special. You said she was one of the first women in Ghana to start an entrepreneurial school, or was it your
So that would
grandmother?
be my
Your
grandmother.
grandmother.
That would be my grandmother, who way back in 1945, she set up a school for women, and her idea was to use what is considered as your feminine women skills to monetize. So way back then, she understood that if she taught women how to bake and sew and say organize events, they would be able to use this to bring money back to their families. So way back then, she started with 6 girls under a tree in 1945 in Cape Coast, and moved this to another part, to Kumasi, where the Ashanti Hini gave her a big piece of land. And by the time she passed away, her school had over 1,000 students.
Wow.
And many people, even the other day, I met somebody who said, "Oh, my sister went to your grandmother's school," and she was very much a feminist. Even before I understood the
Yes.
word, in the 60s, my grandmother would have been taking delegations to Russia or to America.
Wow.
Yeah, very, very driven by what she was doing. Yeah.
It's
So
um it's very important to have a supportive culture around you, right? In order to continue, because how do you um, can you imagine getting up every day doing business and not having the support? Do like where do you get your
I'm
intestinal
blessed.
fortitude? No pun intended.
I really am blessed. I have a great and encouraging partner who is there with me, helping me along. And then I have 3 boys, and people always go, "Oh my God, 3 boys!" Actually, they're very, very easy. Like, they're just interested in playing and eating, and leave me alone. And then I have a great network of friends. So in terms of support, and this has come to me at the right time, and that my kids are kind of old enough not to need me quite so much. Yeah. So
Right, right.
I'm good. Yeah.
You recently came to Ghana, or went back to Ghana on a was it a learning journey on food, or what was your trip? What were you trying to discover by coming back to Ghana?
So I've now realized that every time I go back to Ghana, I meet new people. I find out about new brands that are coming up. I mean, the wellness kind of food space is exploding. People are doing so many interesting things. So even if I think I'm coming for this reason, or to visit this place, or something, I leave with so much more. That I even forget what the original trip was, what the original idea was. So I now know that because I'm doing African food, and my ambitions are to extend this way beyond Dubai. I need to be going back to Ghana quite regularly. And so this time I was talking to somebody and realized how much more I needed to learn about our own food. And she was telling me about what markets to go to, and different types of leaves that I don't know how to cook, but I now, at least they're there, I can find out. So I just have it in my, and of course, my family is there. So I just have it in my mind to go back to Ghana like every 2 or 3 months, and there'll always be something that I'm going back to explore. Mm,
Wow. So
yeah,
every two or
and
three
my list
months.
is endless. I never have time to actually get through it.
Wow. So every 3 months, your intention is you're going back. You're going to learn something new, right? A new
Mm.
ingredients, a new dish, a new.
And new connection, so I know that, for instance, my new learning, which I was blowing my mind, I did not know that the vegan and vegetarian community in Ghana was so big. This is a completely new thing to me, even though I was doing this business before. It was only on this trip that I found out about that, for instance. And I'm looking at this list, and there's so many people to meet and network with. And I'm absolutely blown away by the quality of the new brands, what they're doing, the intent, the packaging, the whole thing. And I'm now in a space where I think, yes, I'm doing this in Dubai that's about me, but how do I bring all these new brands together and show the world that, wow, come and look at what we're doing in Ghana. And I'm sure it might be the same in other African countries. Come and look at what we're doing. That we've got so much to offer the world. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
The vegan
I'm
thing,
totally fascinated by this.
I say the vegan thing, right? Because I mean, I tried the vegan thing for a summer, and then I was like, oh no, I have to have my steak.
Mm.
So it was, I wasn't successful. Um, but I was successful at reducing the amount of meat that I would eat,
Yeah,
instead
and
of
I
eating
don't think,
daily.
I think that's a problem. Is that the vegan thing is what I have a problem about.
Yes,
I think we all need to understand that we're on a journey.
yes,
So I think the problem with the vegan thing is that people think if I can't, it's all or nothing, but it's not. You
right,
can go, I'm not going to eat these particular things because these are really bad,
right.
or I'm only going to have meat
The
3 or 4 times a week.
meatless Mondays, signing
The
on to the
meatless
meatless
Mondays.
Mondays.
Yes, yes, yes. It's something I'm pushing. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so, but I think it was helpful to try that because I did feel better. I felt um, lighter,
Mm.
and I didn't feel as tired. So I think that going back to meat was just a mere habit that you
It's an habit. It's
yeah,
an
it's a
absolute
habit.
habit. Yeah, it's an
Yeah,
absolute habit. And I mean, I still have it so drilled into me that if you don't eat meat, you haven't eaten.
right.
So, so I find myself sometimes, I mean, I pick because I think, oh, it's still in my mind. But I know that if when I stick to my African dishes and I cook myself okra and yam and I sit down, I don't think, oh, I didn't have meat. I enjoy it. Yeah.
So we're gonna have to connect when you come back to Ghana because I would love to film some of these trips that you take, and we can maybe learn because I know there's a lot of history, right? You can almost
Mm.
trace African roots can be traced all over the world through the food, right?
I mean,
Um,
even before, just before this interview, I was listening to Chef Erica Japon, and he was talking about some things I already know. But I'm absolutely fascinated, especially from the history of the African Americans and West African food, and there's so many strong links there. So I remember seeing Juneteenth last month, passing, and for me, one of the things I absolutely love, I'm crazy about this stuff. I believe it reversed my menopause symptoms. Is bizarre. I don't know if you've had bizarre.
I have it and I loved it. And
Mm.
I really do think there's connection to the menopause in that.
Absolutely. For me, it took away my mood swings. I mean, without a doubt.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
And
I mean,
how often would you consume it then? Daily in order
I
to
went through, how can I say? I went through, now I drink it all the time, but now not quite as when I began. But I got to a point, my mood swings were so bad, it was actually beginning to affect the success of my business because I would have these days, and I knew it was menopause because I'd never been somebody who was depressed, and I knew it was hormones. It wasn't me. It was almost like
right,
something had taken over my body,
right.
and I was also putting on so much weight. And I'm incredibly vain about my clothes. Like I'm like, don't. I need to look good all the time. So when not being able to wear my clothes, and also this kind of very negative person that I'd never known suddenly took over. And it was one day when I was just like, ah, I've just had enough. And I just started this business, and I actually needed 3 days of just being in my kitchen, cooking stuff, putting things away, that kind of thing. And I went, you know what? I'm going to do this fast. I hadn't researched it. I didn't know. I'm just going to have this out for 3 days and see what happens. And then after that, I kind of started having it every other day. And I swear the weight just started dropping off me until now. My mood swings went.
Get out of town.
Mm,
You know, if anything, today, this very moment, has been the most powerful and most important information of this interview for me. Because, and as many women, because I talk to women all the time, and it's like, we're not even talking enough about this period in
mm,
our lives
absolutely. And
of transition.
Yeah, and I am, so it's too personal. I'm not actually there yet.
Yeah.
I'm complete in peri.
Yes.
So the doctors couldn't help me because they were like, no, 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 go away. You're
They.
still regular. You're not, But I knew something weird was going on with me that was making me this different person who wants to go to bed because I'm upset about something. It's like that was never me. I got up and I faced my challenges, come up may. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
and since then, and I know because now it's been long enough, and my weight keeps dropping off me, and also, and then the mood swings just haven't come back. Of course, sometimes anybody can sometimes have a bad day and
Of
bad mood.
course. Of
That's cool.
course. Of
But I
course.
know the particular thing, yeah. So and then the more I read, there's definitely something in it.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
so then you're connecting not only what food can do for you, but the historical content of like
Mm.
of the food, right? So, what about the food and the African American history connection?
I
Where?
mean, I absolutely, I'm very fascinated by this. So, for instance, I was reading the other day that the reason that Americans call sweet potato yam,
Mm-hmm.
because actually, so Americans call sweet potato yam, it's not yam, it's sweet potato,
A sweet
is
potato.
that when the African American early slaves went over and they wanted yam, they were giving sweet potato. So they
Mm.
started calling it yam.
Okay.
Whereas if you come to Ghana, there's sweet potato and there's yam, and the two are nothing, are
Right.
not at, are not at all similar. Or like I said about Juneteenth and Bissau and the red. So now I know about the importance of Bissau. I can see why they would celebrate it,
Mm.
with a red drink, or kind of a Louisiana kind of what we call jollof. You can
Yes.
see it in some of the one pot dishes that they developed in their own way. And
Yes. Yes.
if you come out of the US, you can't but fail to see a connection between, if you've ever been to Jamaica, kind of rice and peas and awawache. It's
Right.
like
Right.
it's,
Right.
it's the same dish, but they didn't
And
have the
in
millets to
in
dye the rice.
in Dominican Republic, we have like I found it fascinating on yuca or cassava.
Mm,
We call it yuca, and,
mm,
it's cassava, and how it's cooked in different ways, whether you
mm,
mash it or whether you fry it or whether you boil it or whether. And two, we have yam and we have
mm,
sweet potato and we have
mm.
potato, and so I think that food not only feeds us, right, but it can tell us our whole story. And
It can tell us the complete whole story, and I mean, it's fascinating when I look at Ghana. A lot of the things that we understand as Ghanaian food actually came to us in the 16th, 17th, 1800s from South America,
right,
like plantain came to us,
yes.
or the cocoa bean, which is our main crop, came to us.
But
Or
Ghana has taken the eating plantains to a whole new level.
oh, we certainly do. And look, think about you say, Europeans and potato. We have
Yes,
plantain. It's a lot more interesting, I think.
yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
always say, potato you can only really eat in one stage. Like you can't eat a slightly rotten potato or slightly not quite
Right,
ripe
right.
potato. But plantain, the spectrum of what you
That
can
is
do
so
with it
true.
is. And
And
I'm now on my list is to make a plantain ice cream, which I haven't done yet, but I will.
what?
Yeah, other
Plantain
people have
ice
done
cream?
it. It's not my invention. Yeah, plantain, and you can see why it would work.
How?
Plantain ice cream, yeah, yeah.
So
And
you would
also
have to,
to
what do you put the plantains in the blender and then you freeze it?
I mean, I haven't actually gone to do it yet, but I know that there's a way.
There's a
But for
way.
me, in my mind, what I would do is I would probably, I haven't done it yet, either grill or fry it, and then just have the flesh, and then mash that up.
Hmm. Well, ice cream and plantains are two of my favorite things, so I'd have to think
Hmm.
about that. And then
Exactly.
how you,
Yeah.
when you travel through Ghana and you see, you'll see people having the entire plantain just on a grill. So
Mm,
you could,
mm.
it could be very green or ripe, or it could, it's just on the
So when they
grill.
have it on the grill, they know exactly the stage. They
They
don't
know.
compromise. Yeah,
And
exactly.
the Killy
Yeah.
Willies,
Kilewilly.
Killy
Kilewilly
Willy.
has to be, so the one on the grill is less ripe than Kilewilly, which has to be. But Kilewilly in Ghana, it's almost like, how can I say, it's kind of iconic. Especially when I was younger, you would have I mean, in Ghana, food is also very tied in with our feminism. because it allows a lot of women the kind of thing, their industry, that they're going to go out in the streets and cook. And when I was younger, you would have these queues of people, and I think it's still there, waiting to buy their kelewele, and there might be like a gardener or a security guard right next to like a minister of state, and this is where you get cooked kelewele. And unlike, I think I can generalize, unlike say Europe, in Ghana, food is a leveler. Good food is good food. There's not like classy food
Yes.
and food for poor people. I
Right.
mean, good food is for our traditional good food. A good
Right.
fufu and light soup is good fufu and light soup,
For
whether you're rich or
yes,
poor.
yes. Yeah, all class levels are eating
Yeah.
fufu and light
Mm.
soup.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know and who are watching Kiliwili or Kiliwili, I know I don't have pronunciations right, so please
No,
forgive me.
you're
But
doing well. Mhm.
the it's like sweet plantains with ginger and something else. I don't know
So
what the
it's
ingredients.
with ginger, and depending, it might have some cloves in it, and it definitely has some chili in it. But kelewele, if it's done in the Ghanaian street food way, which I'm always fascinated by, also needs the smoke from the particular oil, which might be coconut oil or peanut oil, and also the type of wood and fire and the shape of the thing that's frying it. It all adds to it.
It's one of my favorites. So now, as you move on to grow your business and you do more events, and you mentioned being fascinated by the history of food as it
Mm,
relates to African American history.
mm,
Are you um, how should I say, having events where you will have dishes and then display its history and connection to the slave trade, or
I think for that, I would love to do, as you know, I'm very new in this space, but as I go along, I would love to do a series where I talk about some of the dishes we have and love, and their links with other, with links around the world, whether it's history or culture, or
mm-hmm.
or as female entrepreneurs. I would love to do that, where you see this dish and you say, no, no, this goes way back. I kind of remember growing up as a child in Kumasi, which is another city in Ghana, and going to a particular place to buy um, beans and gari in a banana leaf, and it was the highlight of our life. But probably the lady that made that, this was her main income. And
Yeah.
yes, that my cook our cook could have made it for us at home, but that's what we did. We were all given a little bit of money, and off we went on a Saturday morning. And we bought this dish, and it was a highlight of our week.
What a beautiful memory.
Yeah.
I think, what I was struck by in Ghana is the women, and in the West Coast, in Elmina area, and you have the fishermen, and you have women, and lines and rows and rows and rows of women
Mm.
scaling fish
Mm-hmm.
and just working outside all day, long hours,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's impressive. I mean, it's just another day. They're setting up early, early in the morning, and they're
Mm-hmm.
working, right? But I look at it and it's like it's such hard work. I mean, hard because many of them I would see with their child right next to them,
Mm-hmm.
especially if the child was not of school age. So, I have, one of my missions is, as I go to Ghana and do more business in Ghana, to kind of support that mother and child, that the mother can have a place where she can, leave the child and afford to do so.
Mm.
Because I
I
found
mean,
it,
that's
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I found
that's
it striking that the women is just, you do what you got to do, right? You do what you
yeah,
have to
you do
do,
what you got
but
to
you
do.
just get
And
up and do
some
it.
of what will blow your mind is sometimes that child is not even the woman's child. It might be her sister's child because her sister is abroad, or it might be a lot of the time, it might be her grandchild, or even the neighbor's child. But I'm not so sure how aggrieved those women feel. I don't know.
Right,
I come from a very privileged background. But when I'm doing something I love, I don't feel the hard work.
right,
It's
right.
it's it's what I am. You might be the same. This is what I have to do, and this is what I
Yes,
do, and
yes,
I'm
yes,
not going to moan about waking up tomorrow morning to be able to achieve something. And I think Ghanaian women as a whole, we just know that we look up. We are here to look after our own, being our family. And you go
yes,
out and you do it, and they probably have a lot of. You would have seen it, the camaraderie and the kind of bonding that the
yes.
market women have, and the
And
laughter, and
you
that's
do
their
see
life.
that. You do see that.
Mm, yeah.
I see the strength, the commitment.
Mm,
I see, how serious they are about their work
Mm.
and also caring for their children. But I look at it also from the perspective of also coming from a third world country
Mm.
where I, um, when I was afforded the privileges that I didn't have earlier on, you see the difference. So you
Mm.
say, hey, you know what? It would be great if those kids didn't have to be there with
Yeah.
the mom all day, or that they could have
So
another
I'm not sure
outlet.
that's, I can't say it categorically because, I do come from a privileged bubble, but I'm not sure that's the biggest problem
Yeah? What do you see
of,
it
yeah,
as
of,
being the biggest problem?
I'm not so sure. So the quality of education around them. So they might not mind having the children with them, but there comes a certain age where those children are now going to school. Now the
Yes.
quality of that education we know might be severely lacking. For me, that will bother me a lot more
Mm-hmm.
than the younger children
Yeah.
that's with them.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's true. That's true.
um, the chances of those children as they grow up accessing, senior school, and whether that education is supplemented and free, or whether they have to then give up and go and work also. I might be a lot more bothered by that
Yes.
16-year-old girl who wants to be a nurse, and that I've heard some horrendous stories about just how difficult it is to get into something like nursing college.
Right,
Mm.
right. And but and more as we know, I had preschools, and more studies are done that the earlier
Mm.
you have exposure to a good education, the better.
I think that's, I mean, I think that's contentious.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I looked into this a lot myself when my children were young.
yeah.
So my kids did the British system, which I think educates children far too early, and there's no need.
Oh,
And what we
really?
know is all
Mm-hmm.
kids will catch up about 7 or 8, no matter how early they start reading or writing.
Really?
So
Okay.
yeah, so if you look at I know Japan and or some of the Scandinavian countries, they actually don't bother sending children to school at all till they're about 6 or 7. And I myself, now that I've gone through the process with older kids, I'm more inclined to think
To
I
do that.
should have had them hanging around my ankles and knees as I did my stuff for longer
Right.
than
Well, it kind
sending
of
them.
speaks to also too, like you for instance. So you're a lawyer,
So
and
I'm not a lawyer. I did a
well,
law
you
degree and then
studied
had a
law. You studied
yeah,
law.
yeah. Uh-uh.
You studied something else other than
Mm.
what you're doing, right?
Yes,
You
absolutely.
didn't
And
spend all this
or even
money.
my experiences in something else, just corporate communications. Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
So it's not necessarily to say that whatever you go to study or educate yourself in is what you'll end up
Mm.
doing,
Mm. No.
right? So that
Mm.
the life experiences, I take a lot of value in the life experiences and exposing my children to real life
Mm.
scenarios more so sometimes in the actual classroom, right?
Mm. Mm.
That travel can be a real classroom.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
being exposed to different people and different
Mm.
cultures can be a real
Mm.
classroom. That being an
Absolutely.
entrepreneur, it's very like I know not everyone is made to be an entrepreneur, but
Mm.
to have the ability to start your business and feed yourself is a very important skill. Um, as someone who has had some experience with restaurants and food, it's like I find that's one of the hardest uh, areas to succeed in.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's no way I could have done what I'm doing now when my children were younger, and be the kind of mother I wanted to be. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what
Mm.
are the challenges that you see now outside of? Um, I mean, your last event was a great success, but what challenges do you see, if any, doing business in Dubai?
I mean, at the moment, I think for all of us, and it's not just Dubai, with the pandemic and with the restrictions, and with all of us not knowing how we're going to socialize, etc. Anybody who's in a restaurant or catering business, there are a lot of question marks. But that also means there are a lot of opportunities possibly coming our way, which is why I've chosen not to be a restaurant but meal delivery, because a lot more people are eating at home and being more experimental about what they eat at home.
Yes,
And
yes.
so
I
this
think
has
that was
been,
smart.
yeah, so this has been an opportunity for me. So, and for instance, I love reading stories of, I don't know, particularly New York restaurateurs. And if you pay close attention, even before the pandemic, they were struggling. They
Yes,
were saying
yes,
a lot of
yes.
restaurants weren't sure that they were
Absolutely.
going to go the mile. And with the pandemic, then it was like, yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is all over now. So it's almost like that whole model was about to be, we were about
Out
to
the
see how
window.
broken it
Delivery was
was
king.
anyway.
Yes.
And then also how it's linked, especially in cities like New York or London or Accra, for instance, how it's linked with real estate and how that was
Yes.
pushing restaurants and neighborhood diners and that sort of thing out. So in a way, those things weren't talked about probably within industry, but not something that people talk about a lot. But the pandemic has come and has probably wiped away a lot of businesses forever. So I think the space I'm in is a rapidly developing, changing. Let's see where it goes
Mm-hmm.
sorts of space. And I think some people will dedicate themselves to bricks and mortar restaurants. But I've always been a bit of a nomad, so I think even if you gave the money, I'm not sure how interested I would be in having an actual restaurant rather than my traveling caravan.
Yes, yes. I think you're right. And nomad, now the digital nomads or the nomads it was sort of like we're strange. We were strange people if you work from home
Mm,
or you were mobile.
mm,
Now the pandemic has shifted the minds of a lot of people, right?
yeah,
And it's more acceptable. So I think the traveling van with food, it sounds amazing. Like if you had a vegan van.
there you go. I haven't even thought about it.
The vegan van all over
You've
major
given me, you'll
cities.
see it, and you'll be like, I came up with that. Vegano, the vegan bread.
Vegan van. I like it. So we have Kristen who was listening. She's a fan of the show, and she was saying that she's sitting there. She wants to have the vegan diet, but as she's sitting there listening to the show and about to eat meat, she's not quite sure if she should continue. But she can't find to have seven, recipes 7 days a week. So how do you not eat the same things if you're just eating vegan?
But why would you even begin to eat the same things? I mean, just go on a little journey around the world for 7 days a week, and there will be so many cuisines
So
that
many
offer
things to eat.
so many things. Just think of what you can do with Mexican food.
Yes.
You can
Yes.
still do so many things and just replace, mushrooms with chicken and still have a quesadilla. It's a
That's
it's a
true.
great
That's true.
it's a
That's
great
true.
thing, move along to Indian cuisine, and again, it's the same thing, all the different types of flavors and types of curries don't need meat. A korma or rogan josh or whatever,
Yeah.
the flavor isn't about the meat.
Yes. Yes.
It's
Yes.
you can use the vegetables to build up the same thing. We've just all been brainwashed into thinking that and it's if you think about the meat industry, we've been brainwashed to think that we need meat, and it's a very deep kind of brainwashing, but
Yes. Yes.
actually
Yes.
to me there's more variety once you decide to go, you know what, let me try some plants.
The plant base. When you go shopping into a vegan market, and they
Mm.
have like, oh, this is just like hot dog, but it's vegan, or this is just like, chicken, but it's
Mm,
not
mm,
meat,
mm,
and
mm,
all.
mm,
What do you
mm.
think about those
So I
prepackaged?
think I said at the beginning, for
Yeah.
me personally, and
Yeah.
this is all very, very personal. For me personally, for instance, I find it mind blowing that Africa is the second biggest continent in the world, and that Ghanaian food is objectively nice, but nobody has heard about it. You know, nobody has heard about it. So for me,
Wow.
the vegan space, because we have so much to offer, might be the opportunity for us to discover all these
Yes.
things. Even myself, Nigeria is a neighbor. I have Nigerian friends, but until I started this, I didn't pay that much attention to Nigerian food. Now I'm like, what are those leaves you're eating? Well, and that, I want to bring
Right.
that into my menu. And then it's been till now, vegan has had an almost and I'm not being evangelical and actual vegan. I'm more interested in us exploring plants and other things and other ways of cooking.
Yes. And so,
And that's
what
what I'm more
countries do
interested
you,
in.
yeah, so what countries do you go to that you say, well, I guess every country has its own vegetarian dish, right? Or its own
Mm.
style of cooking that's doesn't necessarily have to have meat. But that
Yeah.
requires time and research. Maybe like if we go to vegana.com, we can just have like a menu from Monday through Friday.
You can, sure. But I love the Thai flavors and Thai cooking and Thai stir fries. And sure, the meat of it is nice. But actually, all the different various vegetables topped up in the different ways and all the flavors, they're not necessarily about the meat, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
They're about the flavor.
They're about the flavor. A green curry is a green curry, whether the chicken is in it or not. And it's only in your mind that you're missing the chicken from a Thai
That you
green
think,
curry.
yeah. No, it's definitely a conditioning that we feel we have
Mm,
to have meat.
and also a big industry that's,
Yes. Yes.
decades and decades old.
And those
Yeah.
commercials with,
Mm,
that attract you to meat. So we have a few minutes left of the show, and I wanted to have you say last how people can find you and where are you in Dubai and but before you tell them where you are, I want you to share with us what is the best thing besides going to eat and taste your food. What is the best thing to do in Dubai if we wanted to come visit where you are?
Gosh, so Dubai is there's a misconception. It is hot, but it's only really terribly hot in the summer months. So for me, the best thing is if you're ever here, you get a buddy and you get a little picnic basket, and you don't have to drive far out, just about half an hour, and you get there about an hour before sunset, and you have enjoy the most spectacular sunset.
Really?
Yeah, and I did something I do regularly with my friends when people visit, and you just have to drive a little bit out, and you find really wonderful dunes, and you kind of, if you have a little speaker, you put it out and you sit and
Yes.
you watch the sunset.
And so Dubai is known by having these audacious, awesome, great, very expensive, extravagant, all the words that I can think of that are big, big events. I personally like smaller events.
Hmm.
But where do you fall in the spectrum as you do your pop-ups and events? What
So
size?
I think
Mm-hmm.
there's the Dubai that people who only visit and pass through don't see. So
Mm-hmm.
because we're 90% expat,
Mm-hmm.
and that's quite a lot of,
And
that's a
that's
huge
huge.
amount. 90% expat, and a lot of people are people like me who move here who might find that we don't pay tax. There's a slight ease, I'm generalizing, ease of standard of living. So, hey, I'm going to start up my new business. So I
Mm-hmm.
actually find that my friends in Dubai, entrepreneur-wise, are doing things that are a lot more interesting than, say, my
Mm-hmm.
friends when I was in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in terms of discovering art and culture,
Wait, you don't pay tax?
mm,
Like, what do you mean
at
you don't
all.
pay tax?
We don't pay tax.
There's
I
no
mean,
income
we get.
tax, there's no sales tax, there's no
So there's at the moment there's a VAT on goods, yes, but there's no income tax.
there's no income tax. So
Yeah,
all the money that you make, you keep.
there's a VAT. So if you have a service industry like mine, after you had, yes, but it's not massive. But if you're paid by a firm, yeah, all the money you have you keep. You don't pay tax.
Well, we're moving to Dubai.
Mm. But even now, so I'm a bit of a Dubai fan. Yes, it has its problems, but I am a Dubai fan. So I find that I've had more, and I haven't been getting any younger, but I've had more time and interest to explore so many more things that I wouldn't have if I lived anywhere else, whether it's music or poetry or art, and those worlds have opened up to me once I've moved here in Dubai. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. So tell the listeners how they can find you. And if you are coming to Ghana, let us know when you're coming to Ghana, or you can let me know privately. But I want to be there when you're
Mhm.
there.
Oh gosh, I let everybody know, and I'm always interested in learning. So I'm going to be there, I hope, from about the 19th of August,
Okay,
um,
wonderful.
for a while, yes. And then how people can find me. So I'm Vegana Life. So you can
Okay.
hashtag or at. So my Instagram and my Facebook is Vegana. So VE and then Ghana, VEGHANA Life. And the website is vegana.life. And I'm always interested to hear from people who want to find out more about Ghanaian food, and also people who have ideas for me. Yeah.
Yes, this will be wonderful. I'm going to be there in November, December.
Mhm.
And so if you happen to be back by that
I'll be
time,
back in December, I hope.
oh,
Yeah.
well, wonderful. So we have to link
Mhm.
up, as they say. I want to thank you so much for your
Oh,
time and
thank
thank you for
you.
coming. And we're going to have you back. And you're an inspiration, and I'm very lucky and blessed to know you. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
All right. We'll see you soon.
Thank
we'll see you again.
See you soon.
My name is Aleida Castillo. You're listening to Culturally Lit Africa. I am your host of Culturally Lit Radio Show.
I'm an open book, really just looking to create opportunity for people.
If you're a great singer and you don't have a good character and you don't know how to talk to your musicians, you will always change musicians.
If you have a church,
yes,
or maybe a crusade, and you mention that Jesus is black, you might lose all your members. I'm telling you.